Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. A few people asked me questions recently regarding how can they get a lot stronger without gaining weight or without getting too much bigger. And the main reason is they're wanting to stay at a relatively light body weight. And this is where things get interesting because a lot of people have bought into this myth that power training and strength training doesn't make you just as big as bodybuilding training does. When, again, we saw the example of the Brad Schofield research I linked the other day and we've discussed, showing that power training is roughly equal to bodybuilder style training for gaining size. And the guys in that study were doing large amounts of triple. Now we could argue that they spend more time in the gym because they did, or we could even argue that, well, maybe it's not quite as much. Maybe they gained a little less, but the reality is traditional power training put a lot of size. It induced good hypertrophy results in experienced lifters, guys with over 1 year of consistent training. And we have other studies where when they actually study people who claim to be completely drug-free for research purposes, they test them, they're finding that a lot of times the power lifters actually have more muscle mass than the bodybuilders. But again, there's flaws of that. But the point of it is that power training will put size on you. And that's why the guys who are in these really lightweight classes who put up really, really big weights are extremely rare. When you go look at what guys are lifting, you might see, 20 guys in the world who have really good totals at 150, 160 pounds, but they're the exception to the rule, not the norm. The other 99% of powerlifters in that weight class don't have impressive lifts. That's the top 1%. And what people forget is that there are a lot of genetic things that come into play. There are muscle fiber distribution, bone leverages, muscle insertion points can affect how strong you can personally get for the amount of muscle you have. Some people can simply produce more force with a given amount of muscle mass on a given lift than others, genetically, even if they both train the same. And that's the secret to these freaks who do this. It's not that their training wouldn't make them bigger because all of them got bigger from the training. So the problem is that when people go to do this, they bought into this myth and then they find out it's not true and they want to stay down at 150, 160, 170 pound weight class. And then they find that they struggle to gain muscle. So I'm going to give you guys a few tips of how to do it. The thing is to keep in mind is going to be body composition and limiting volume, because we know high volume training will put more size on you. By high volume, I mean even the way powerlifters train. If you're doing 7 or 8 sets of 3, on a big heavy compound movement, that's going to induce just as much hypertrophy as if you had done hypertrophy work. But it also produces more strength. So this is the way that we train. And what you're going to find is that it is very, very difficult to gain strength without size, other than when you go into new adaptation phases. Like the new lifter, they'll get strong as hell in their first 6 weeks with almost no size gain, and then they'll start gaining. But those neural adaptations are relatively small beyond that. You can get them, and the motor learning is there, but you're not going to see massive jumps in strength. Aries, quit playing with the tripod. Psst, psst. Okay, sorry about that. But you're not going to see those big jumps in strength without gaining size. And so what you need to focus on is things like body composition and efficiency. And what I would say the first thing you've got to do, if you don't want to gain a lot of weight and you don't mind gaining less strength as long as you're not gaining weight, keep the reps and the volume very low. Don't do more than 1 to 3 work sets on any of your big compound movements ever in one session, and don't go over 3 reps. So at the very most, you're going to get 9 reps, and you might be getting as little as 2 or 3 reps on work sets. You're going to have to train that way. You can't periodize a whole lot and start doing a lot of rep work or higher volume sets of doubles and triples, because you're going to grow from it. You're going to gain too much muscle. The other thing to consider is body composition. You need to run some sort of recomposition diet. You need to focus on losing fat to account for the extra muscle you're going to gain. And recomposition diets, I mean stuff where you run 5 to 6 days a week. You run a deficit, then with large refeeds, you don't run maintenance calories. You might run weekly maintenance calories, but you don't run maintenance calories every day because it's not always going to work. And you have to schedule your training a bit around those refeeds for your more intense, heavier sessions. So you need to focus on body recomposition so that you're gaining muscle, losing fat if you want to pull this off. And the other thing is don't put unnecessary muscle into certain places. For example, if you know that your calves are not going to contribute to your total, don't ever do direct calf work, because it might put a pound of muscle on you that you don't need if you're trying to keep a body weight down or stay in a weight class. And that's going to be 1 more pound of fat you have to lose somewhere to pull this off. So that's the main thing, is look at what muscles are the most important and maybe don't train much volume for even stabilizers, because even those little muscles will add up. And that's the main thing you're looking for, is that if you really don't want to gain, you're going to have to avoid a lot of accessory work. Focus on your big lifts and minimal accessories, volume low, intensity level high. And that's the only way you're really going to be able to get dramatically stronger over time without gaining body weight. It's going to have to be a focus on not gaining unnecessary muscle in the wrong places and focus on body composition. You're going to have to get relatively lean, probably under 10% body fat, if you want to be truly, truly strong at a low body weight. Because the reality is, the idea of separating size and strength for the drug-free lifter is a myth. Now, you might get bigger without getting dramatically stronger, but you're not going to get dramatically stronger without getting dramatically bigger. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time. Let me give you guys a bicep shot before I go.